Hey Russell, welcome back to my channel. This is gonna be my first Get Ready With Me video. I've been doing Get Ready With Me videos before where we could chat about life things, not just bookish things, and I thought I'm just going to bring it back as Get Ready With Me because I get ready to film videos either way, and this time could be spent better with you. We could also chat about life things in the comment section and actually have conversations, which is nice. I have a lot of updates actually, but I want to focus on my Thailand vacation because it was eventful. This year actually personally for me was the best one out of the previous few because of the pandemic, and I've actually started traveling again. I also finally paid for my mortgage, which was definitely a highlight because, being in debt is just not fun. Even if it's not something that you feel particularly pressured about, if your payment every month is not huge. Although at the start, when I just took the loan, it was pretty hard for me because most of my salary went to the bank, but I was living with my parents. I wouldn't be able to do it without living at my parents or somewhere where I didn't need to pay for my accommodations. So at the start it was pretty scary actually. I was excited because I knew that I'm buying my own place, but at the same time I was terrified because I thought if I'm going to lose my job, this is gonna be the end. I also didn't know, to be quite honest with you, because financial literacy is not something we're born with. I didn't actually know what's gonna happen if I will stop paying my mortgage. Will it take my apartment away, which was building at the time? So I was like, how could they take it away if it's not built yet? All these questions, they were definitely on my mind, but it got easier with years because I've changed jobs, I got raises. This year I actually got a freelance job as well because I really wanted to finish paying for that debt, because obviously the faster you close it, the less interest you pay to the bank, and the interest here is pretty high. I just wanted to be done with it, and finally I'm done with it. I've turned 30 in August, so it's been a few months. It doesn't really feel like a lot, although of course when I was 20 it felt like 30 is such a significant age. I'm not going to lie, it does feel significant because from now on it kind of feels like I have to make even bigger decisions, but at the same time I understand that I'm fully capable of making them. And also in general I'm more confident in myself because I stopped caring what people think of me. Strangers mostly, but also people that I felt incredible pressure from for a long while due to the way my family operates. My parents were always stricter than most parents, so I always felt like I have to make them happy. And I do still feel like I have to make them happy, but I put myself first because you just generally need to be able to do it. Otherwise, you'll be just stuck pleasing other people. And it does sound rough sometimes, even to myself. I think I've proven to them and to myself by this age that I can make decisions like a proper adult. I think the most liberating part of it, though, is just not caring as much about things that are not particularly important for me. When you stop caring about what other people think of you, for most part, you can actually become your true authentic self. And for the longest part, I thought that I am my true authentic self, and I wasn't. The way I dress now and the way I present myself is much different compared to 5 years ago. And some of these things, I'm not going to go into detail, but I think you know what I mean. Some of these things were because I actually cared what people would think of me, and I didn't dress the way I wanted to dress. Basically, I'm really into suits right now, and also I'm really into sexier clothing. Because I have a very childish face, I felt like I can't do sexy. And it took me a few years to figure out that I actually can. Because I can do whatever I want. So, in the past year or two, I think there have been a few changes in the way I present myself, in the way I speak to other people, in the way I date. Just generally, I've become more confident. And I'm much happier, even though I've always been a pretty positive person. I'm not melancholic in any way. I actually am not particularly into melancholic people. I don't want to begrudge them because it's the part of their personality, but at the same time, it's really hard to be around this energy. And these kinds of people are usually trying to shit on everyone's parade. So I've been trying to shield myself away from them and only surround myself with people that make me happy, that I'm really comfortable with. In general, this year, I've become much more myself. That's actually one of the achievements that I'm most proud of. All my foundations look pasty. This 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝕸𝕃 one, it's a BB cream. It's a bit yellow, which looks a bit better on my skin right now, but at the same time, I still feel like it's a bit light. For you, I'm probably still very pale, but for myself, I'm very proud of my tan because I usually don't get any. Anyway, finally, after the pandemic, I actually went on proper vacations. It's been a while. I've been very exhausted of the routine, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. I'm not alone in this experience. Everyone felt the same way. Everyone was stuck. The longer the same old continued, the more people started snapping. So when I actually stepped into the airplane, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I know that it sounds cheesy. I did this on purpose. This trip to Thailand, I've been to Thailand before, was quite eventful. And honestly, I've never experienced anything like that before, so it was shocking at the same time. And in the past, when I went to Thailand, I went to the islands, because usually that's what you do when you go to Thailand. Some people are more adventurous, but usually I went there to relax on the beach, eat the best fruit that grows anywhere in the world. In my opinion, they have the best selection of fruits: mangoes, dragon fruit, papaya, mangosteens. I'm not sure you call them mangosteens in English, but that's how we call it, this fruit here. I also tried sugar apple for the first time. For some reason, I ignored it previously. I wasn't noticing it. I don't know. And it was pretty good. It's like a mix between a pear, a fresh cream, and an apple. I don't know how to explain it better. So I usually went there for lazy vacations. I also previously visited in the winter, and the climate was a bit too warm. This time it was pretty mild. The first 2 days it was actually cloudy, which is good when you go to a very hot country. I decided to try a different beach this time, and it paid off. It was actually really nice, and the hotel was very nice. We had a really great territory. It was very green. A lot of Thailand hotels are smaller, and they don't have a lot of territory, so this time I really wanted to find this kind of arrangement where you can actually enjoy the nature. We were near the mountains and near the sea at the same time, So it was just a very pleasant experience. The air was excellent. It was moist and not too hot, and my skin loved it, and I loved it. The first few days we were adjusting, everything was normal, and I was loving it. But then something came over me, and I decided that we need to visit Bangkok. I've never been to Bangkok. I've been thinking about it previously, but it always felt like such a pain in the ass because you already have a hotel, you booked it, you paid for it, and now you have to take a night out and go somewhere on the plane. So I never really attempted to organize it. But this time, I thought I just need to do it. I bought the tickets, I booked the hotel. We decided that we're going to do this in the middle of our vacation because we knew that we're going to get tired of traveling, and padding your vacation with relaxing things is a good idea. I've written down a lot of the things that I want to do and the places that I want to visit, and I was really excited about it. The start of the whole trip was pretty good. The only problem was we were seated quite far away from each other. It was just an hour and something, so I didn't mind. I was sitting with a couple that was fighting. They were not ashamed of it at all. I actually thought that they are enjoying it because they were pretty loud. The guy was pretty jealous. I think he was French. He was pretty jealous of his girlfriend. I'm not even sure if she's his girlfriend because they were talking as if they were dating maybe for 2 months, which is not that serious in my humble opinion. The girl was Thai, and she was coming back to see her parents, I believe. And the guy was asking her about her co-worker that she apparently texts too much. And the fight was about her writing to the co-worker something along the lines of "love you" at the end of the conversation, which is a completely casual thing. In the opinion of many, it's like kiss you, see you, hug you, whatever. He was so pressed about it, and I felt so bad for this girl because she couldn't just scream at him in the middle of the flight, but I bet she wanted to because it was inappropriate. He was literally quoting the messages and in general was making such an ass of himself. They then made up. He forgave her. In my mind, I was like, girl, run, because this guy is toxic AF. He forgave her. What a privilege. And at the end, when we landed, she was asking him how they're going to get to the apartment. And he was like, I'm going to take the train. She was like, yeah, that's great, but I'm exhausted and I want to take a taxi. Let's take a taxi. And he started counting how much the trip is going to be if they're going to take the taxi, which was even more embarrassing because, oh my god, you cannot pay for a taxi and you're wearing really nice clothes and you have the last iPhone. Brady people are the worst. When they start counting every penny, it's just such a particular experience that I cannot even put into words. So he started counting money and he was like, oh my god, this trip is going to be so expensive. And she was rightfully getting more and more agitated. So she told him that he can't take the train, she's going to take the taxi. They were starting to get loud too, and I was like, I want to leave. Please let me leave. I don't know, I just feel like people should not fight in the public places because everyone can hear you and it's not their business, and also it's just so impolite in my opinion. We were not going to take the taxi because I wanted to experience the train. The first thing that I noticed, and if you're Thai, don't be offended, it's, I believe, a cultural thing. I'm just not used to it. On the train, all the young men immediately plopped their ass down on the seats and all the girls and elderly women were standing. That is so impolite in my culture. I was definitely eyeing them because these women were standing right in front of them. Just so weird to me still. Especially because there were two elderly women in the back that were standing and they were talking pretty loudly so you could hear them, even if you were just really into your phone, the way these guys were trying to pretend to be. But whatever, maybe I just don't know something. We arrived quite fast to, I want to say, Siam station. We went to see the malls because I knew that it's gonna be hot. And our hotel check-in, I think, was at 3 p.m., which is quite late in my opinion. They are pretty impressive. They do have a lot of really, really big malls. I didn't understand why immediately, because, you know, why so many malls in the same area? It seems like such a big competition. And we were enjoying ourselves there. We went for lunch. It was pretty cute. I love Thai food when it's not very hot because I cannot eat hot foods. When we came out, because it was around 3 and we wanted to check in to our hotel, it was not far away, we wanted to walk to it, I realized why they have so many malls. It's because it's incredibly hot. It's so hot, I could barely tolerate it. I don't know how people live in a climate like that. And Phuket felt completely different because there was so much greenery there. Bangkok is stone city, not stoner city, although I think they legalized weed. And the stone buildings get really, really hot. You would think that it would get more tolerable as you go into the evening, but no, it actually gets hotter somehow. I found a lot of the architecture interesting because they have a second floor basically for people to walk on. First floor is mostly for the cars and for street food, so it seems. It's really hard to walk on the first floor because it's so crowded. In general, the buildings are built really close together, which is unusual for me as well because I'm used to having a lot of space. It's just not the way people build here. So walking on the first floor, I'm calling it the first floor, was not a good idea either. We were trying to walk on the second one for most part. Sometimes you would have to go down because there were no way around it, and the stairs are very steep. Thankfully, they have a lot of elevators, and I'm not an old lady yet, but I have to admit that I used the elevators because I was scared of just, falling and breaking something. Bangkok really is a city of contrasts because it's really hot. It does smell. They are, I believe, trying to figure out how to do trash more effectively. I've only seen bags of trash at the end of the night, but it's still really hot even in the evening. It does rot pretty quickly, so there is a smell that is quite unpleasant. But I think the idea with the second floor is pretty neat. I also quite liked the transport system, and by that I mean the subway system. I have not dared to use the bus because the metal gets hot, obviously, and I can only imagine how hot it is inside. There are a lot of older buildings in Bangkok that are sort of peppered between really new, high-tech, beautiful, luxurious buildings, and that's why I was telling you about contrast. That sometimes you would get a building that is falling apart completely, and I understand that a lot of it is because of the weather and the climate. They get a lot of rain and they get a lot of really, really hot sun. Upkeep must be expensive, but they're definitely building a lot of things. I just wish, personally, that they would repaint some building. Outside of the weather situation and the contrast between the very conditioned subways and the very hot streets, I think it was such a cool experience. We've seen the main palace, and it is incredibly beautiful. We also went to see it in the evening, and it was lighted and just honestly incredible. We also went to the 𝕊𝕆𝕀𝔸𝕃 park because I wanted to spot the warrens, the big lizards, and I had no idea that there are going to be so many. I thought it's just something they tell the tourists because they want people to come. First of all, it was cooler there, so I was already more excited about the experience. The moment we came up to the lake, a huge lizard decided to swim to us. And I was terrified. I was shitting myself because for some reason, at the back of my head, I had this idea that they are poisonous. Maybe it is true. I still am yet to check. I think the guy just came up to us because he wanted to get some food, as the animals in parks usually do. We have ducks here, not lizards. I really stepped a few meters away from the lake, and there were these two ladies that literally sat down on the bench, and they were, I don't know, maybe a meter away from this creature. I was very worried for them. In my wild imagination, I thought this guy is just going to come up to them and he's going to eat them up. But he was pretty cute. I taped him because, what else do you do in these kinds of situations? I was pretty pleased that we spotted him. In general, this park is so peaceful. There's so many trees, there's nature, there's so many animals. The crows are so different, the pigeons are so different in Thailand. And also we spotted a lot of fish, and people were actually feeding the fish, and it's huge. It's huge fish. We also spotted a few other lizards while we were walking the park and resting. And we also saw one in the middle of the road. It was far scarier this time because it felt like this lizard had an intention, and the intention was not good. I don't know what he was doing in the middle of the road. Maybe he was just chilling and I overreacted. But after that, I was like, we're leaving. We're leaving this place because I actually realized that I'm scared of these lizards. So we decided to leave. I also wanted to eat. In terms of the food, Bangkok is incredible. There's so many interesting places there. I've ate so many dishes that I've never heard about before. Everything just looks really cute as well. I was also planning to drink a lot of boba because I love boba tea. Boba is big in Thailand, I knew that, and I love it. I was deeply offended because it turned out that I'm intolerant to Thailand milk. I don't know how they process it, but something in it made me very sick. And I was very stubborn actually. I tried 2 drinks with milk, and I also tried an ice cream in McDonald's. There was nothing else open at the hour that we wanted to eat, so we went to McDonald's. I don't like McDonald's. I don't eat in McDonald's. I don't eat a lot of fast food. I'm not lactose intolerant. I've tried milk in a lot of places and it was okay. So it was definitely a bummer, especially because I was like, I'm going to drink only boba tea. It just doesn't always turn out the way we want it to turn out, I guess. I am not going to lie, we've spent a lot of time inside because although I am quite cheerful now, at the time the weather was intolerable for me. People are really used to it though. I don't know how they were wearing jeans. I was hot, dying, just looking at them. Everyone is gorgeous too, no one is sweating. I think in 2 days I've been in so many malls and I was impressed with all of them. They are all very, very interesting. They all have their own thing. I think the Central World was my favorite because it just had everything. Anything you need is in that mall. The movie theater looked incredible, but obviously I don't know Thai, so I didn't go there. I also finally visited the 𝕊𝕆ℂ𝕀𝔸𝕃, and it's one of the most gorgeous bookstores that I've ever been to. The selection is just so big, not just of the books in Thai, but also of the books in English. And I love that. I've spent about 35 minutes there, and I would have spent hours if I had the time, because I said that I'm going there for 10 minutes. And I said also that I'm not going to buy anything. But of course, I bought something. Where is it? I bought a copy of Lake Silence by Anne Bishop. Anne Bishop is one of my favorite authors, if you didn't know. I love her other series. This is just an extension of the same world. I was definitely a little bit ashamed of filming because the employees for some reason were really watching me. I think it's because I was one of not many Caucasian people in the store, so maybe it's because I was just different. It was definitely one of the highlights. I loved that store. I don't drink, so I didn't go to experience the night culture. It's not something that is interesting for me personally. But I don't regret visiting Bangkok because it was unlike any city I visited before. This shit hit the fan when we tried to get back to Phuket. It started raining really hard that day. We took the train to the airport and we were 2 and something hours early because I like to be early in the airport. I don't want to be the person that is running to the gate to hear my name in the speaker and lose 10 years of life from nerves. Our flight was postponed for another hour. The plane that we were waiting was late. Stuff like that sometimes happens. The unfortunate thing about countries that are this hot is that they are definitely blaring the conditioning indoors. I was not very covered. I was actually wearing a dress and it was pretty revealing. So I was getting really cold and I was scared of catching a cold. I was hoping that they're finally going to let us into the plane, although we were still sitting in our seats in the airport by the departure time, and it was becoming suspicious. It was even later than the time they said we're going to depart, and they said that we can finally get on. I was pretty tired already, because I have not slept well. I don't really sleep well in new places. So we sat down and we were waiting for the plane to take off. I was for some reason skeptical of it. Something was wrong. And it was indeed wrong because something happened to the oxygen bags and the crew was acting very odd. Then they announced that we're going to sit on the plane for another hour because we're expecting new oxygen bags and they need to fix something. When I tell you it's not particularly pleasant to hear about something being broken on the plane that you're going to ride, trust, it's not. I was trying to be positive because stuff sometimes just doesn't go according to plan. The more we sat on the plane, the more I was getting worried that we're actually not going to take off. And the problem with that is that we don't have a hotel booked. I was absolutely not in the mood of staying in the airport because it was cold there. I was already feeling like I'm getting sick. But then someone came on the plane, they fixed the oxygen bags, and we took off. And then about 40 minutes into the flight, the pilot announced that we're turning back. I thought shit like that only happens in the movies. It turned out that Phuket airport was closed because of the weather. It was raining, the visibility was bad, and they decided that we're going to turn back. I can't even describe how I felt because it definitely was not something I wanted to hear. No one wants to hear that. But at the same time, I was so uncomfortable, so exhausted. I was definitely getting sick. I definitely wanted to sleep and to eat, and they were telling us that we're turning back. And no one knew when the next plane is going to be. It felt like they're going to, fly us back to Bangkok, leave us in the airport, and we'll just have to figure the whole thing out on our own. The vibe was definitely like that. Another 40 minutes later, we arrived at Bangkok airport. The crew acted very shifty. I think they didn't know what to do either because it felt like they were not prepared. According to the rules, if you make your passengers wait for more than a certain amount of hours, you have to give them food and also to arrange their lodgings. And the crew definitely was not prepared for that because they just gave us a very wide-eyed girl. She was trying to explain what's gonna happen, but it was pretty clear very early into it that they don't know what's gonna happen. I think they were trying to find hotels for people, but it was a very slow process, and we were supposed to wait for about 5 hours till our flight. The way the company acted was very sneaky because they were telling us that we're going to get on this flight, and then some other person would come and on their hand somewhere or on their papers we would see a whole different flight number, and we didn't know what to do because they were not particularly communicative. In these kinds of moments, when I'm getting really frustrated, I start laughing because the situation honestly was funny. There were a few people that were very demanding, and they actually figured out how to get a reaction out of the crew, and they finally started saying that they're actually looking for hotels for us. But the underlying message was, this is not going to take so much time, as in waiting for another flight, so maybe you all should just stay in the airport. You cannot imagine how freezing it was in that airport. They were also trying to get away from us, and we were walking after them because we were clearly invested in getting out of there, but they were not very invested in getting us out of there, so that was a problem. Finally, when we pushed a little bit more, they started taking away people in groups, and it was just so random. It turned out that they actually found hotels for us, but there were stipulations. I wouldn't be surprised if someone had a romantic comedy experience out of this, because some of the rooms were for 2 people, but a lot of people were traveling alone. So they had to agree to live with strangers. We were one of the people that were accommodated at the end-ish. It was about an hour and something left until the flight, but at that point, I think it was a matter of principle for me. I just think that the companies have to have plan Bs and plan Cs, something. They said, okay, we're going to give you a hotel and you can stay there, and we're going to take you back in an hour. So we went to the hotel. I expected it to be worse, but it was not good. Like, I'm not going to pretend that it was a good hotel. I would absolutely never, ever choose it because it was on some kind of a swamp. It was very old, and I was actually afraid of using facilities there. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not iffy about accommodations. I need the place to be clean. I need to know that no one slept there before me on the same sheets, that no one's butt pressed to that toilet, that someone actually cleaned it. They definitely had chosen the least expensive accommodations that they could find. At that point, I didn't expect more from them. I was just laying on the bed with my eyes closed because I wanted to rest, but I wasn't comfortable sleeping there. They took us back in an hour or something, and we came back to the airport. I definitely felt the deja vu. I was kind of thinking, they're going to do this again. They're going to postpone the flight and we're going to spend another day in the airport. There was a couple there that has been traveling for hours. They flew to Bangkok from Philippines. Can you imagine how tired they were? It wasn't pleasant. I don't think that the company was particularly organized. They were not accommodating. They were not particularly nice to us. They were trying to get away from us mostly, and the only time when they responded to our questions is when someone really pushy asked them. I'm never going to see flying the same way again because now I know that they can just turn you around. And I didn't know that they can do that. So every single time I'm going to fly now, I'm going to be thinking that there's an option. Imagine being asked to fly back on a 10-hour flight right in the middle of it. When I came back, I actually wanted to kiss the soil, like in the movies about people being stuck on islands, because I was never happier to be back. I googled the company afterward, and it turned out that it's something that happens quite often on their flights. So now I know to never use their services again. So that definitely colored my experience in a certain way. I'm happy that I went to Bangkok because I could have not done it once again, and I would have regretted it because at some point, if you want to visit a specific place, you just gotta do it. At some point also you forget the bad things. So I guess I will forget about this experience. I mean, I won't forget about it, but I won't feel as negatively about it. They do say that with time, every bad situation turns into a funny joke. So I'm waiting for that situation to turn into a funny joke. Overall, I had a really, really nice vacation. The hot and cold experience in Bangkok affected me though, and I was progressively getting sicker. The moment I stepped off the plane, I got really, really sick. Like really, really, really sick. And I was thinking that it's COVID, but it actually turned out to be what? Tonsillitis. It's not much better in my opinion. Tonsillitis is really not good. I've had tonsillitis before, and I still remember it, though I was very little. The weather change is very shocking. It's snowing here. It's a full-on winter. And I came from a very sunny, very pleasant climate. I refused to leave my house, and honestly, I had to stay at home because, I was sick. So I had a really good excuse. But overall, I felt pretty shitty, and I had to work because I felt weird about asking for day offs. I know that I could have just opened a sick leave, but I was on vacation for 2 weeks, and I know that people were expecting me. They actually messaged me a few times trying to figure out some things. So I decided that I can definitely work from home, and it was fine. Obviously, a few weeks passed, and I can actually swallow now. And I even got used to the weather quite quickly, actually. Human body is incredible. We can definitely endure a lot of things. Now I'm really behind in terms of just my feeling of the season. My biological clock is weird because I feel like it's supposed to be early November, not the middle of December. All the public places are decorated for the New Year's, and I still can't really catch up. It feels like I have all the time in the world till 2023. I'm thinking of not putting the tree because it's so much work. And honestly, I don't think I'm going to spend a lot of time at my apartment. I don't think so. I'm not planning to. Maybe I should just ignore the whole thing. Because if I'm not going to be here, who cares if it's going to be decorated or not? I put the lipstick on and fingers crossed, it's even. I know that a lot of people celebrate Christmas, mostly, and New Year's is kind of an afterthought. It's completely different here because we first celebrate New Year's and then it's Christmas, so Christmas is an afterthought, plus I'm an atheist and a lot of people are atheists. I think though the concept is very similar. Some families have traditions, some don't have traditions. I think because we don't have many traditions anymore since we're not children, me and my brother, we as a family with some extended family as well fight more because we don't have a schedule, we don't have a thing that we know we're going to do. When I was a child, we always went to see the fireworks, to walk after having our meal, and very often it was snowing, so it was really pretty. And also when we were very, very young, like children, we put on shows for our parents. We're both theatrically inclined. My brother plays or played an instrument, and I was reciting poetry and putting on all kinds of dances and stuff. I still remember it. Now, when I'm older, we don't really do much. We just sit around the table and eat. Some programs play in the background on the TV. And because of that, I think the holidays don't feel like the holidays anymore. The times that I've spent the holidays with my friends was different because we were actually interested in being in one place together and spending the holidays together, so it was more exciting. But at the same time, I'm thinking, I will miss this time, so I kind of want to spend it with my family. But at the same time, I'm thinking anxiously ways of diffusing conflicts. So if you have any recipes that I can use to make sure the conflicts don't happen, or you have some traditions that you want to share with me, share them in the comments down below. I might steal them from you because, I need help. Definitely. I hope you're enjoying this new format. I definitely like this because it was more fun talking to the camera and getting ready at the same time than just getting ready. And also, I'm hoping we're going to have active conversations in the comments because I love doing live streams and I felt like I was connecting with you through live streams because we were actually having active discussions. And I miss that, so I'm trying to bring this back with Get Ready With Me's. I would absolutely love to get some feedback. Otherwise, thank you for watching this. I am pretty sure this video is going to be long, and I will see you soon with another one. I will actually film this other video right now after finishing this one. On this note, I hope you're having a really good day today, and I will see you soon.